Welcome to The Needle, your Division I college basketball podcast. I'm Jack Williams, owner and operator of D1CoachCorner.com, your source for college basketball news, rankings, and predictions. On this podcast, we present to you weekly conversations on D1 college basketball coaches and their teams. Don't forget to go right now on your computer, phone, or tablet and follow us on Twitter. This episode of The Needle is brought to you by D1CoachCorner.com, your source for Division I college basketball coaches.
Now that we've gotten that introduction out of the way, let's get into the show. I know some of you are asking, why is this show called The Needle? Well, what we're going to be focusing on this show is how some teams move the needle either closer or away from getting into the tournament. Say, for instance, a major D1 team loses a bad game against a lower D1 team. Well, we all know which direction that needle is going to be headed, right? That's right, south. Now, if an unranked team beats a ranked team, then the needle is moving north. And teams that win games over bubblegum teams won't be getting coverage on this show. Now, there were several good pre-conference tournaments and showcases going on during week 2 and 3 of college basketball. To name a few, we had the NIT season tip-off that started on Monday, November 12th, the Gabbett tip-off games, the 2K Empire Classic, the Charleston Classic, the Myrtle Beach Invitational, the Bad Boy Moors Battle for Atlantis, and so on and so on. But out of all the tournaments that I watched in week 3, part of week 2, the Gabbett Games tip-off, the Maui Invitational, and the 2K Empire Classic were the most entertaining of them all. Let's focus a little bit on the Gabbett tip-off games. The Gabbett tip-off games is an annual 8-game series played between the Big Ten Conference and the Big East Conference to tip off the college basketball season. The pre-conference games were named in honor of the late Dave Gabbett, former athletic director of Providence College and the first commissioner of the Big East Conference. Now, I managed to watch several of the Big East teams play in week 2 and 3, and boy, I tell you, it really taught us a lot about the Big East Conference. What did it teach us? It taught us that there are really no dominant teams in the Big East this season. At the beginning of week 3, there were no Big East teams in the top 25. As the week progressed, the needle for the entire conference was heading southbound. The downward trend started on November 14th when we saw Villanova lose to Michigan, then we saw Marquette lose to Indiana, and then Seton Hall to Nebraska. Well, Seton Hall was no surprise. Most preseason polls had this team predicted to finish 8th or below in the Big East Conference. That's because they lost 3 of their top scorers to graduation in Desi Rodriguez, Angel Delgado, and Kadeem Carrington. That's 46.7 points per game on average, missing from the team's roster that had to be made up for this team to stay competitive. But man, that Villanova loss was a shocker. I mean, it wasn't the fact that it was Michigan that beat them. It was how they were beat. I mean, Michigan treated Villanova as if they were playing a low mid-major team. And the crazy part about it, it was on Villanova's home court. But all due respect to Villanova, they've won the last 2 out of 3 championships. And they lost a lot of players to the pros this summer. Now with Marquette, most of us had this team picked second in our college basketball preseason polls. But after that 23-point beatdown by Indiana, man, I don't know. Most of us will say now that this conference is wide open. Any team in the Big East could win the title. The question is, what would the Big East look like come selection Sunday in March? And to Georgetown. You know, I was pretty optimistic about this team at first. I watched them win a road game against Illinois in this Gabbett tip-off game, which is a good thing. A road win is always a good thing for a team's resume. But then they turned around and lost the first game of the Jamaica Classic at Montego Bay to Loyola Marymount, a mid-major team. Then, going back to Villanova again, they lose a game to Furman, another mid-major team, on Saturday. I knew then that this was going to be a long season for the Big East, or should I say a very short season. Creighton recovered, though, with its win over ranked Clemson in the Cayman Island Classic championship game on Wednesday, November 21st. Now, before we get into the 2018 Maui Invitational Tournament, let's talk some on the Hardwood Showcase between Indiana and Arkansas. The Hardwood Showcase is a home-and-home agreement made between Indiana and Arkansas to play a series of games, one at the Arkansas Bud Walton Arena this year on November 18th, and in Indiana for the 2019-2020 season. I was kind of skeptical of this Arkansas team at first, them being so young and all, but I was very impressed by the young freshman guard Isaiah Joe and sophomore power forward Daniel Gafford. Unlike the 2017-2018 Arkansas team, this team seems to have bought into the Arkansas defensive culture. However, that pressure defense that Arkansas is known for seems to be getting to these young guys by the end of the game. There's not enough depth on this team this season to sustain such pressure throughout the game. Poor Gaffer played his heart out, but was getting winded at times. On at least one occasion, I saw him raise his hands wanting out of the game because he was so tired. However, the win over Indiana on Sunday, November 18th, was a good win for the young team, but it didn't move the needle by much due to the fact that Indiana was not a ranked team, for one. It was a home game, secondly, and third, Arkansas only won by 1 point. If they would have won the game against Texas on the 9th, it would have counted for much more. The needle would have moved northward significantly. But looking at the Arkansas schedule for the next few weeks until conference play, Arkansas is scheduled to play a bunch of low-level mid-major teams, and 8 out of 9 of the next few games are being played at the Bud Walton Arena in Arkansas. How well is that going to play out for Arkansas come Selection Sunday in March? Now on to the Maui Invitational Tournament. This yearly tournament included some tough teams this year, such as Auburn, Xavier, Duke, San Diego State, Arizona, Iowa State, Gonzaga, and Illinois. Now, I gotta admit, I thought that this Duke team was going to win it all. I was one of those guys that felt that Duke was a super team that couldn't be beat, especially after what they've done to Kentucky at the beginning of the season. I mean, they beat Kentucky like they were a mid-major bye team. But we have to understand that this was the very first game of the season for Kentucky, and there were probably a few jitters there. The jitters weren't there for Gonzaga, though. Duke came into the Lahaina Civic Center with a target on their back. You could tell right away that Gonzaga was out to beat the best team in the country, in which I still believe that Duke is the best team in the country. This young team is going to have to understand that they are going to be targets because they are the best team in the country. I'm not taking anything away from Gonzaga, though. I mean, I'm convinced that this Gonzaga team has what it takes to play in the national championship come April 2019. That Hashimura kid is for real. He averages 23 points and 5.6 rebounds per game. And let's not leave out Zach Norville Jr., Brandon Clark, and Josh Perkins. Come next Monday, I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a new number one. It's going to be either Kansas or Gonzaga. You got to give Duke some credit, though. They never went away. To beat this Duke team, you better come with some studs like Gonzaga that's willing to play the whole entire game. I do believe that this loss was good for the young Duke players, though, and it probably taught Coach K a little bit more about his team. I kind of felt that Zion should have been the one to taking that last shot, however. This is not a knock on Barrett, who probably is the best overall player on the team. I don't know. We shall see. But the one thing I do know is that Zion has a much quicker and more explosive first step than Barrett does. Now watch this. Duke was only down 2 points with 44.9 seconds remaining in the game. Jones was the player that had practically gotten them back into the game with his lane floater. Barrett had the ball in his hand every possession after 44.9 seconds remaining. Hashimura blocked his shot about 3 times within 44.9 seconds. Barrett had taken 3 different shots. All were blocked to win the game. He never made it to the basket. Because he's number one, Coach K gave him the go-ahead to finish the game. Now, Zion is 280-plus pounds, and with his explosiveness, Gonzaga didn't have a player on the team who was willing to stand in front of this big guy. I think Duke could have won the game if Zion was given the go-ahead to finish the game over Barrett. Hey, I'm just saying. But anyway, the Maui Invitational taught us something, though. We are going to see Gonzaga, Duke, and Auburn in the Elite Eight and beyond come March 2019. I also thought Illinois was going to be a better team than they were, but they lost every game in the tournament, which included Xavier in the 7th place game. Xavier is not that good defensively. Both of these teams are struggling defensively. Xavier's opponents are averaging 79.6 points per game on them, while Illinois' opponents are averaging 79.8 points per game on them. Both of these teams will probably struggle during conference play come January. Illinois' coach Brad Underwood is in his 2nd season with Illinois. Coach Travis Steele is the new head coach at Xavier, taking over after the departure of Chris Mack to Louisville. Now on to the bad boy battle for Atlantis. The Bad Boy Battle for Atlanta was another exciting tournament held in Week 3 of college basketball. This year's tournament featured teams such as Florida, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Stanford, Butler, Dayton, Virginia, and Middle Tennessee. Florida is struggling offensively, averaging only 69.5 points per game. And where's Kayvon Allen? If you look at this guy's game, and I've been watching him since high school, from the time he entered college until now, his game hasn't changed. I mean, his game hasn't elevated at all. There's no improvement there. Out of all 4 games, Florida only had 1 player, and that player was Jalen Hudson, who barely averaged double digits in scoring. Florida lost in the 5th place round to Butler in a bad boy battle for the Atlantis. Now, number 4, Virginia strengthens their postseason resume by becoming the champions of the bad boy battle for Atlantis. Teams like Virginia, Gonzaga, Michigan, Duke, and Kansas aren't playing for a spot in the tournament. These teams are playing for the top seed in the tournament, which gives a team a better chance of winning it all. However, Virginia's first major test is going to come on the 28th of November against Maryland at the Xfinity Center in College Park, Maryland. This will be the first true road test for Virginia. All of Virginia's previous road tests were played on neutral territory. It is always difficult to go into another team's house to win a game. This is going to be Maryland's first real game of the season. Maryland's offense, led by guard Anthony Cowan Jr. and big man Bruno Fernando, will be put to test by Virginia's tenacious defense. Holding teams to an average 49.3 points per game makes Virginia the 4th best defensive team in the nation, only behind Murray State, Michigan, and Texas Tech. The needle should move northward for Wisconsin as well, who lost in the championship round of the Bad Boy Battle for Atlantis against Virginia. In the 2K Empire Classic, the needle moved northward significantly for Iowa. Iowa beat both Oregon, another top 25 team, and unranked Connecticut to win the championship in the tournament. The loser in this tournament was Syracuse, who lost both games in the tournament championship bracket. In the Continental Tire Las Vegas Invitational, Michigan State, North Carolina, Texas, and UCLA all played in the championship round of the tournament on Thursday, November 22nd, and on Friday, November 23rd. The needle moved northbound for both Texas and Michigan State. The 2 teams played in the championship bracket of the tournament. Even though Texas had lost in the championship round of the tournament, the needle rose a few ticks for this team due to the fact that it had beaten North Carolina, a ranked major D1 team, in the 3rd round before advancing to the finals. The loser of the tournament, however, was UCLA, who lost in the 3rd place round to North Carolina. Now to the Hall of Fame Classic, powered by Shot Tracker. Texas Tech and Nebraska met in the championship round of the Hall of Fame Classic powered by Shot Tracker on Tuesday, November 20th. This was the first real test for the Huskers this season. The Huskers are looking to build a resume to get into the tournament in 2019. Nebraska hasn't been into the tournament since 2014. Texas Tech, however, eventually won the game, which moved the needle northward for this team. Texas Tech ended up beating Nebraska by 18 points, 70-52. Remember that in the end, the selection committee is going to be looking at where the games were played, the quality of the team played, and the difference in the final score. The 18-point championship win should look good on Texas Tech's March resume. Now to other important games around the league. Mid-major Lipscomb beat TCU in Fort Worth, Texas, which wasn't an upset. Lipscomb is coached by Casey Alexander, who is in his 6th season as head coach there. Coach Alexander led Lipscomb to the tournament last season by winning the ASUN Conference title. I actually think that TCU was ranked too high in the AP polls, but that's my opinion. This is Lipscomb's 2nd major D1 team that they've beaten on the road this season. Lipscomb beat SMU on the road on November 19th. 2 consecutive road wins should have moved the needle north significantly for Lipscomb this week. Lipscomb should start receiving votes in the top 25 for their effort. How about Kent State defeating Vanderbilt at the Memorial Gymnasium in Nashville, Tennessee? Vanderbilt's going to have to be careful from this point on because the needle is trending south for this team. A home loss against a mid-major is never good for the postseason resume. But to Vanderbilt's defense, they lost their star player, Darius Garland, in the early parts of the game with an injury, while Kent State got its star player, Jalen Walker, back from a previous suspension for violating university policy. Walker scored 22 points in his first game back. That concludes the needle moving portion of our show. And let's now move on to the Coach on the Rise portion of our show. This portion of the show is brought to you by D1 Coach Corner, your source for college basketball news, rankings, and predictions. Once again, don't forget to go follow us on Twitter after the show. In this Coach on the Rise segment of the show, we will be discussing coaches who have been in the league 5 years or less, who are on the upward trend towards becoming one of the greats in the game. And our Coach on the Rise of the week goes to Coach Nate Oats of Buffalo. Coach Oats is in his 4th season with Buffalo and is in his 4th season as a Division I college basketball coach. Coach Oats is 44 years old and he grew up in Watertown, Wisconsin. He spent 11 years as a head coach at Romulus High School in Romulus, Michigan before becoming an assistant coach at Buffalo in 2013 under Coach Bobby Hurley. Bobby Hurley is currently head coach of Arizona State. Oats has an overall record of 69-39 and has led Buffalo to 2 postseason tournament appearances in 3 years. For his efforts, he was named the MAC Coach of the Year in 2018. The needle for Buffalo is heading northbound this season under Coach Oats. Buffalo has had 2 very good road wins this season already under Coach Oats. They beat West Virginia at the WVU Coliseum in Morgantown and then turned around and beat SIU at the SIU Arena in Carbondale. These early road wins has earned Buffalo a spot in the top 25 for the first time in the team's history during Week 3 of college basketball. Buffalo entered Week 3 ranked number 22 in the nation. Now let's get to the rookie head coach watch list. The rookie head coach watch list goes to Coach Penny Hardaway of Memphis. Coach Penny Hardaway has sparked a lot of excitement in Memphis on his landing of Tennessee native James Wiseman. Many National Scouting Report has James Wiseman ranked between the number 1 and number 2 player in the nation for the 2019 class. Wiseman was connected to Penny's AAU organization, which gave him the advantage over Coach John Calipari of Kentucky, who was heavily seeking Wiseman. Memphis fired previous coach Tubby Smith after the 2017-2018 season because of his inability to land top recruits from the area and for low ticket sales. More of the latter than anything, but the news of landing one of the top recruits in the nation should send ticket sales skyrocketing next season. Now let's see who's on our hot seat watch list this week. It's Coach Patrick Baldwin of Milwaukee. Milwaukee started the season off 0-4, and their schedule doesn't get any easier from here. Milwaukee's going to be facing a ranked Buffalo team on November the 30th. Hopefully, the fact that they're going to be playing several home games up until December the 9th may help this team. If not, we may see Coach Baldwin's seat start warming up in just 2 seasons with the team. The lesson here is an organization should know its team before scheduling. If you know that you're not going to have a very strong team, then schedule wisely. For a low mid-major team with a not-so-good team, pack the preseason schedule with NIA and Division II and Division III teams that you know that you can beat. I would rather start the season 4-0 winning against soft teams than starting 0-4. An 0-4 start messes with both the fans and the team's psyche. Even for powerhouse conference teams, I don't believe in stacking the beginning of the season against other powerhouse teams in the beginning. I think that could affect the team's psyche down the line. Some organizations are going to have to balance their pre-conference schedules a little better. Well, that concludes our show for this week. Join us next week at the same time and same channel for new episodes. We will be happy to take your questions on Twitter for our next episodes. Our Twitter handle is at D1 Coach Corner. That's at D1 Coach Corner. See you next